Hi, today what we're going to try and do is get the LED matrix at the bottom of the clock working. Now you can see I've already soldered the demultiplexers up here, so electronically speaking we should be ready to go. What I want to actually display on here is the date to go alongside the time that's being displayed up at the top of the PCB. Also, what would be quite nice, something that I've not done before, but considering that we're using the ESP32 and it can get information off the internet, I thought it might be quite nice to try and get the weather information on here as well. Right, so I've just dug out some firmware which I actually wrote over 10 years ago now. This is for the audio DAC which I keep threatening to finish building, and that had an OLED screen on the front of it, a 256x64 OLED, and I'd written some firmware for the ESP32 because at the time there weren't really any libraries available. And the majority of this should be transportable to this project because the majority of functions, which we can see here, are mainly associated with actually getting text and graphics into an array, which is then fired out on the SPI port or the I2C or whatever you're using to the display. So actually most of these are still valid because they're just preparing data into an array which mirrors what would be on the actual screen. And so really the only thing that I need to do is write a bit of firmware to actually write the data that's stored in the array out to the shift registers so that it refreshes the screen. Right, so I think I've just about finished writing this bit of software. It seems to build okay, and this took a little bit of thinking about because the SSD1322, which I was originally writing to, which is an OLED controller chip, had grayscale graphics on it, so you could actually have 16 levels of brightness. All I'm doing is if any of those pixels are set to anything other than 0, then I'm assuming that the pixel's turned on rather than implementing grayscale at the moment. I might try and do some grayscale multiplexing shortly, but I think this is just about okay. It took a little bit of thinking about just to get everything coming out the SPI port in the right order, but the actual writing to the SPI is very straightforward. So the actual writing is done in matrix send data, and actually FreeRTOS handles SPI transfer really easily, so it does all of the DMA and everything for you. Literally all you have to do is pass it a structure along with the length to send, and it just sends it out straight away. So this is really nice and simple, a lot simpler than it would have been writing all this by hand. Right, so I'm just trying to remember how all of this works. So I think we need to write to a string. So I've just done hello world to data string, and then we actually write that to the RAM array that we've got that is supposed to mirror what's on the actual matrix. Now, in terms of fonts, you can see I've got Trebuchet here, which is one of the Microsoft fonts. So we've got two font files here, .c and .h, and I prepared this using the Microchip Graphics Resource Converter. I had to install a really old version because the new one is designed for storing it in Flash directly rather than creating the .c and .h files. So I've had to find an old version. Microchip is really good for this. They have all of their previous versions on the website, which is really good. But all you do is you choose a font. So you can choose one of the ones that you've got installed, for example. And let's just say we'll do Impact and click OK. Change the settings here for the C32, and that gets it in the right format. And then you just press OK, and you store that somewhere, and it literally just creates some C source code. And then if we have a look at where that's created it, you can see here that we've got all of our font data all stored and all prepared for us. So that's a really nice tool to be able to use, and then we can just pick one of these fonts and put it into here, and it will write to the display with that font. So let's see if this works. Oh, nearly. It's not quite. It's upside down, and we've got a little bit of glitching going on and a little bit of something going on down here. I'm wondering if I'm writing outside of the bounds of the array actually, so let me just have a little look at what I'm doing here. And there we go, that seems to be working properly now. We've got a little bit of glitching going on. I think that's the PWM controlling the brightness, just interfering with the refresh rate slightly. So I will need to adjust that. But I was writing to the display upside down, so I had for some reason in my mind that this was pixel 00. Of course, bottom left is 00, so now we're multiplexing in the correct direction. Right, so that seems to be working nicely now. I'm able to write any text that I want to the display. So now we can get it to display the date. So we've got the date on the matrix now. It is still flickering a little bit. I need to have a play with this PWM routine that's doing the dimming. I did also find some acrylic in my collection. It's not enough to do the entire display, but that's how it's going to look once it's got the smoked acrylic in front of the PCB, and you can see that improves the contrast quite significantly. If I show you with it and then without it, you can see the contrast is really quite different. So I've got to order some of this in, but I've got to wait until I'm back at work before I can use the laser cutter to get it to fit. So I was having a little look around on GitHub and I found this example. It's for writing to an LCD. Now I don't really care what the project was originally writing to, I just wanted to see some examples of what people were using to grab weather data from the internet, and that basically pointed me towards OpenWeather. So OpenWeather has an API which you can use to get the weather data for your area. So they've got a free subscription model here. It goes up quite steeply after that, but basically with the free API key you can do 1,000 calls to the website per day to grab the weather, so that's more than enough. And you get all of these APIs that you can look at. So the current weather data, if you have a look at the documentation, basically you do an API call with your city name or your postcode along with your API key, and then you get the weather information back in this format. So you get the weather, clear sky for example, the temperature, pressure, humidity, wind speed and direction, and that kind of thing. You also get this one here called icon, and you get back a response. For example, O1D would be sunshine in the daytime, and you know on your display that you could display a sun symbol rather than trying to interpret the text. It already tells you which one to use, so sun or cloud or rain or anything like that, and then you can get those icons on your screen and display the weather appropriately. So what we're going to try and do is try and call the OpenWeather website and see if we can get a response. And so the code to do this is quite straightforward. We've got a task here called weather task, and we go in and we just check that we've got a Wi-Fi connection, otherwise we don't try and even attempt to connect to the website. And then the actual call to the website is done in this function here. So if we have a little look at that, it goes in, it concatenates the URL and the key, and then it gets the response back. And then you can see we just do a CJSON parsing of all of the data. And I've just picked out some of the examples here, and then we print them out onto the console. So let's run this and see if we can see the information on the console output. We can see the time and date, and there we go. So it's done the weather task. That worked quite easily actually. So we're looking at Peterborough here, 291 Kelvin, humidity 42%, clear sky, clear, and the icon type is 01D, which is, let's have a look, 01D, sunshine, which is exactly what we've got outside at the moment, which is quite nice. So that's actually really straightforward. The only thing that I need to do that's a little bit more complicated is try and work out how to get some of these icons on the screen. So in my code, I've got quite a lot of functions for doing bitmaps. I just need to try and remember how to actually use those, and I also need to create the icons as well. Right, so I was getting a little bit annoyed with the odd bit of glitching that I was seeing. Something wasn't quite right, and I thought I'd have a little look to see what was going on. Now, I thought it was only related to the PWM frequency of the brightness control in conjunction with the refresh rate, but actually we seem to be getting glitching on the matrix no matter what. So even if we set the duty cycle to 100%, it was still doing some weird stuff just towards the end here on the matrix. So I've probed the clock and the data lines, and if we have a look on the picoscope, what we can see is something really quite weird. So we're setting columns 78 and 79 here. The red line is the data, and you can see we get a nice strong signal all the way up to 3.3 volts. On the clock line, we're getting something quite different. So we never actually get anywhere near the 3.3 volt amplitude, but also in these early clock cycles, we're slowly ramping up in voltage, but only getting to about 2 volts. So we're right on the threshold of the clock signal into the latches, and these first couple here are even lower in amplitude, and this one isn't always getting clocked in. Sometimes the second one isn't getting clocked in, so we're seeing some weird shifting of the data on the matrix. So I need to try and find out what's going on here. It's weird that it's sort of ramping up here. One of my friends, Rob, he's suggested that maybe it's trying to charge a capacitor maybe on the power lines and that chip isn't getting power. So we'll do a little bit further investigation and see if we can see what's going on. Right, so something really weird's going on. What we've got on screen here is the brightness control for the display, and this is the PWM routine, and basically it's all disabled. So the PWM function is completely disabled, and what should be happening is that the output enable line should just be high and not doing anything at all. But if you look here, the screen is obviously, well, the LEDs are obviously lit up, so it's somewhere it's getting a signal. Now if we look at the picoscope, what we can see is this is the, in blue, the clock line going to the matrix. That's 80 clock cycles, and at the same time what we're seeing is the output enable line to the shift registers turning the LEDs on. It's following the same width, but it's got some kind of loose coupling to that clock signal, so it's almost like there is an impedance between those two lines. So let's have a little further look at the PCB. Yeah, it's not looking good for my soldering. I think I may have bridged a few pins unless there's some damage to the ESP32. We're getting some loose continuity between each of these pins in this region here. There doesn't seem to be anything too obvious around here, but I'm going to clean it up first with some solder wick and then try reflowing it all again. Now these castellated holes on the ESP32 are really quite fine pitch. It's a little bit difficult to solder these. Let's try again. There we go, that looks better. Let's do another impedance test. And so these are looking a lot better now. And so everything's working a lot better now. We can see we've got a proper clock signal, and this is now at 5 MHz and still working absolutely fine. I did check the impedances on all the other pins just to make sure. It looks like I just had a solder bridge, just must have been very slightly underneath the pads. So I'm quite happy with where we've got to today. A lot of the functions that I didn't know how I was going to do, including the weather information, it's nice to have those out of the way. So now it's just tidying up the whole thing and making it look nice and neat. My wife's just mocked up some icons for the weather, and so I need to get those bitmaps onto there and tidy up the weather screen so it looks quite nice, and also sort out some transitions. All of the glitching has stopped, although the camera's picking up some shimmer. I think it's just interfering with the refresh rate, but this is all rock solid now that I've fixed that soldering issue. It's a little bit annoying that I was chasing that for quite a long time. I finally got around to sorting out what it was. So I'm quite happy with where we've got to. As I said previously in some other videos, what I'll obviously do is put all of this on my website so that you can make your own boards. You can use all the firmware to do whatever you want with. I didn't have a plan to actually make these and sell them, especially since at JLC PCB you can order them quite cheaply with all the components on there. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, thanks for watching.